I think I'm pretty decent at animating, which is why I'm going to try to animate in 10 seconds, 1 minute, 10 minutes, and 1 hour, and we'll see which one's the best out of all of them. So the app we'll be using is called Flip-a-Clip, and we will first be doing the 10-second animation. We will first name this animation Decorum, because why not? Decorum. Now, since it's a 10-second animation, I doubt I can do something really interesting, so I will be going to 2 frames in order to make something that's slightly understandable instead of just something that you'll see for only like 3 seconds, or like half of 3 seconds. So yeah, let us start the timer. Alright, let's begin. Well, 10 seconds isn't a lot of time. I tried to make a little animation about a stickman dribbling a basketball, but I only got the stickman and the ball, and then the timer went off. Well, that was a terrible display. Now, let's move on to the next animation. Now, for the 1-minute animation, let's name it Chaotix. I don't know how to... Give me a sec, I'm not good at spell... Okay, Chaotix. Chaotix. Now, this one we can actually do a good amount of frames per second. How about 10? For a 1 minute, 10 frame animation. 10 FPS animation. Now, let me set up the timer. Now, the 1 minute timer begins now. Now, for this next animation, I tried to make an animation about a ball turning into a stickman, kind of terraforming, as you can think. So I started with the ball, and I started putting it upwards into the center stage. You know, classic time. I didn't have time to put some reference lines or where the ball is gonna go or something like that. It was mostly abstract, coming straight from the noggin. So, then I started creating the actual abstraction, turning into the stickman. As you can see, I got it turning into some sort of limothy creature, and then I drew the stickman. I drew it also with a little bit of a star shape in the original, and then I drew the full stickman, and then I copy-pasted that for 2 frames so it would stay. But the timer slowly dropped, and then this was the full animation. Kind of abstract, but not bad for 1 minute. Anyway, time for the next animation. Alright, so for this next 10-minute animation, I'm gonna simply call it 10-minute animation, because I have no ideas. So, I think I'm going to have it as a 10 FPS as I usually do it, and I shall create the project, but I shall not work on it, because we need to do the timer, switching it up to 10 minutes, and now, 2, 1, begin.
It seems like Zero isn't making art. Press the control shock to get him back to productiveness.
So, in the beginning, I tried to make a little voting animation of Dave from LBS and announcer from BFDI, which announcer from BFDI would win. But after having a bit of issues with the lasso and asset, and noticing that the animation didn't quite blend well, I scrapped that idea, and decided to do a little animation about someone shooting a bow instead. Now, I drew a little storyboard for this, didn't put too much effort into it because obviously. And the storyboard turned out alright, it gave me the main idea. And the animation wasn't all that bad. So I started drawing, and I drew a green stickman with the bow. And then I did a lighter color for the little, for the string. I had the green stickman grab it, and I had a bow, and I had an arrow. Sorry guys, I'm kinda not too good at voiceovering. Anyway, as I was reanimating all of this, the only real problem I had was worrying about how much time I had left. Because, you see, this is a sped up, as you can see, this is obviously sped up. So all I had to worry about was how much time I still had, because I didn't know. So eventually, after I finished drawing the stickman and the bow on the different frames, and I started to draw the arrow, I wanted to see how much time I had left. And then I saw that it was 3 minutes, so I started panicking and I started to go faster, much faster. As you can see, I started drawing the arrow and the frames in an not too smart way. Though, I think I did it just well enough to give myself some space in the extra frames. Now, after I erased the storyboard, I decided to draw a stickman getting fired at by this arrow. So, while I was rushing, I drew a little stickman, and I drew the arrow coming in, not very much not in a very nice fashion. I had the stickman have the head be cut off, but I didn't copy-paste the frame, so it wasn't really there that much. And you can tell how desperate I got. I had to use the fill tool. No one uses the fill tool. Then I had to type fin, and it was over. Meh. I'm sure the 1 hour animation will be better. So first I set up the timer. I put it from 10 minutes to the grand 1 hour of animation. And then I named my animation 1 hour time for some reason. And after I made the frames and went through the horrifying experience of an ad, I set up the background, and then I made 40 individual frames. Now, there's like 6 or 7 minutes of this footage. So, while I animate in the background, I'll talk about some other things I've been wanting to say. For one, Destruction Cyborg. Are you gonna talk about the hate comments you got on your last video? No, I won't. I will not. Now, the second thing is, get ready soon for Destruction Cyborg vs. Mr. Random and Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. And the third and final thing is, my last video did pretty well, so I'm probably gonna do that again. And the final thing is also, we're trying to get to 100 subscribers, and I hope this video can boost it up, even though it's probably going to get like 10, 20, maybe if I'm really unlucky, like 5 views. But, you know what? I'll try. Anywho, for the animation, I wanted to do an animation about a stick figure kicking a ball, and then I decided to get a little weird with it, as you'll see soon. Anyway, time to speed this footage up even more, because I have less and less things to say as this will go on. Now, guys, you have to understand, 1 hour is a long time. A lot of time to do a lot of things. But for an animation, you can tend to go a bit overboard when you think you have like infinite time, which I didn't, but I had a pretty good thought process to which I thought I did. Now, I don't really have anything much to say because, you know, I can't really explain everything that had to do with a 1 hour animation. But I will say that I did waste my time watching this ad, and that also I added a few more features after the hour was up, so I could, you know, fix it up. For example, by the time I was practically fully done with the whole animation, I had 20 seconds to add the head and everything else I wanted to add. So I had to put in about 15 or 10 more minutes of work into the animation. So technically it's a 1 hour 10 minute animation, but whatever. Anyway, time to see the final result. absolute cinema? No, more like just mid. I think the animation I made is pretty decent, but not what I was wanting at the end of this. Well, hopefully, with time, I get better at animating. I hoped everyone enjoyed the video. Please subscribe so we can make it to 100 subscribers, and goodbye.